Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the last episode of Flea Market Finds, we took a look at a lot of model trains, so I thought for this installment we'd pivot back to the world of Thomas & Friends merchandise. Over the last couple months, I've been very lucky finding stuff at flea markets and thrift stores and other places, so let's continue that momentum by taking a look at all of this great Thomas & Friends merchandise. Here in front of you, you can see that it is a pack of trains, specifically all Thomases, and you can see from the price tag, I got this for $4, which I thought wasn't a bad deal. I got this bag of stuff at a local antique shop that I frequent, and I thought it was really great because this is the first time I actually found Thomas & Friends merchandise at that antique shop. Usually when I go there, I find a couple of model train things, but that specific day I got really lucky finding this Thomas & Friends bag of goodies. It was along with some Matchbox cars and some Chuggington stuff, and I thought if anywhere that would be the best place to find Thomas & Friends toys, and I was right. In this bag, there is nothing particularly interesting. However, they are some versions of Thomas, which I do not have, so I thought it would be worthwhile to pick up. And for $4, $1 per train, I couldn't pass the deal up. You can see I already opened up the bag just to look at the models beforehand, so that's why the bag was ripped, but it was taped, so there's no damage, presumably, to the models, except the damage, obviously, that was already done to them when they were hopefully being played with. Here is a Thomas Wooden Railway Thomas. This is the version of Thomas that Mattel made in 2017, where for some reason, they decreased the size of the faces. So you can see that Thomas's face does not go all the way to the edge of his smoke box. Instead, there is a distinguishable line around it of black. If I bring in a standard 2013 Mattel Thomas, his face is big enough that it covers the entire front of the smoke box. So here's a comparison between these two Thomases, and it honestly just looks like this Thomas is a lot thinner. But I do not particularly like this Thomas design, as I feel like it just looks a little bit cheaper. The face, the details just aren't as crisp as the 2013/2014 variant of Thomas. If we look on the bottom, there is nothing really all that different, and then the wheels are dated 2012. And you can notice that this is an older version of Thomas from Mattel because they started doing the indents in the wheels. This is a 2014 version of Thomas, but my original Mattel Thomas is 2013 because the wheels are filled in all the way. Just a little difference that you can point out. Even if it wasn't with the face, you could notice that it was a later version because of the wheels. Besides that, a pretty standard Thomas. On the roof of his cab, you can see quite a bit of edge wear, and also there's just some grime on the front of him around his magnet. His magnets are very, very clouded over. But it just is interesting to see all this dirt and stuff around him, so hopefully we can clean that up. But as I said, for $1, not bad. Here is a take-along Thomas. On the bottom, it says Thomas, and let me see what year it is. This says 2002, so this is definitely take-along. You can see the classic Thomas face there, and he also has quite a bit of edge wear. His wheels are very faded. It's a very different blue color, almost a teal color with his wheels, and the bottom of his wheels on the interior is also very dirty. But it shows that these toys were loved and played with, so I'm not too upset over the fact that they are pretty dirty. Here is another Thomas, and this, I believe, is a take-and-play Thomas. Yes, it says 2009 Mattel. You can see some differences between the older and newer style. Specifically, the face is a little bit different. But overall, these toys stayed very, very consistent. The only notable change that I can see is his whistle. The older Thomas has just a yellow whistle, while the newer one has it painted in gold. Overall, this is in okay condition, and I have a couple of these Thomases already, so this is just an extra one. And next up we have another 2002 Thomas. You can notice by the yellow whistle. He is also pretty beat up, But I am not mad about having this Thomas. Interestingly, you can notice that the yellow of his number 1 is completely gone on this side. I don't really know how that happened, but that's pretty interesting. On the back, he has the sticker. I'll try to get that off somehow. But he is in okay condition, as I said. His eyebrows are mostly worn off. But his buffer detailing is picked out in black, which is very nice. And his magnets look in good condition. So for $4, not a bad deal. And I'm very happy to have these 4 Thomases. And hopefully when I go back to the antique store next time, they have some more of these toys that I can find. Let's move on to the next item. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you will recognize this. A couple episodes back, I found 2 similar bags to this at a flea market, and I went back to that seller a couple weeks later, and I was able to find this one as well. And I think it's a great deal for $10 to get one of these foldable take-and-play destinations and a couple of trains. So let's take a look at it. This Farmer McColl's Farm foldable playset I actually already have. It's a duplicate. So now I have Maithwaite, the paint shop, and 2 Farmer McColl's Farms. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with them, but it's cool to have a lot of these. It is a foldable playset, so you can take it on the go and then connect these together with another one of these or maybe some track and really start to make a big layout with this foldable destination. You can see that it is very similar to what we took a look at before with the detailing. It has the farm building, and then also it has an ice cream factory on this side, which I believe first appeared in season 9 of the show in Thomas's Milkshake Muddle, if I'm remembering correctly. Overall, though, a very cute and very ingenuitive destination, and I'm happy to have another one of these. What I really bought this for, though, was what was inside. So let's first take a look at this, which is Henry's Tender. And this, I believe, is a take-and-play Henry's Tender because it is labeled 2009. And the reason why I'm very happy to get this Henry's Tender is because now I can finally complete my Henry that I got at this flea market a couple weeks ago. Here is that Lights and Sounds Henry that I took a look at a couple episodes back, and he was tenderless. But now, from the same seller, they must have had the tender and just separated them. So now Henry is complete, and I think he looks really great with the complete tender and engine. So I'm very, very happy to have this now, and I thought that was a big plus in getting this lot, that now I can complete this Henry. Next up, we can take a look at another take-and-play item. This is Gordon, and let's see if his batteries work. Well, you can see that sounds like almost like a Star Wars sound effect or something. Gordon's not sounding too good. So I might have to check his batteries. I hope there's no battery corrosion, but it doesn't sound like they work very well. However, this is a very splendid model of Gordon, and I believe this is the 3rd version of Gordon in take-along/take-and-play that I now own, which is not bad. However, I do need tenders for Gordon, so that will be something that I hopefully find maybe at a flea market or antique shop. That would be better than going on eBay and buying a tender for all that money, I bet. So this Gordon, you can see he has the lamp where the light, obviously, you can see it flicker a little bit when I press his top button. He has some nice detailing with the gold whistle, and overall a very nice engine, especially I love how he has an accurate wheel configuration. That's something so great that how small of a toy this is, that his splashers line up, and the detailing of his stripes and handrail and whistle and dome, everything looks splendid on this model. Last but not least, we have another take-along/take-and-play item. This is a flatbed car, and I'm not sure exactly what set or pack this is from. Let's see, on the bottom it says 2009 Mattel. I'm thinking maybe there was some sort of tanker on the top here that would fit in. It is very light. There's not a lot of metal in this, except maybe for the axles and then the magnets. However, I was just happy to get another piece of rolling stock for take-along/take-and-play. Now I have those colored troublesome trucks, I have some regular gray troublesome trucks, and I have this flatbed. So that's really great. And then the thing I really was interested in were these 3 items, which is 3 more Thomas Wooden Railway aquarium cars. So I guess I can't escape these aquarium cars, as now I have 3 different sets of these, which is somewhat overkill and pretty wasteful, as I really have no use for these. But since I saw these 3, I just couldn't pass them up, and I love Thomas Wooden Railway too much to leave these be. So you can see there is 1 shark car and 2 octopus cars. And if you remember back also to that previous episode, I found 1 of the shark cars. So now it completes 2 sets of these. And before that, I had in my collection 2 more aquarium cars. So now I have a lot of these things. I could make an aquarium train. Maybe that could be an episode idea, actually, now that I have so many of these. You can see these are pretty much the same. They say aquarium car on the bottom. This one as well. And I believe the wheels will say 2003. This is the redesign of the aquarium cars. Back in the early 2000s, there was a design of them being in a box, but then later that shifted in the 2008-2009 era to these type of aquarium cars. And there's nothing wrong with them, just they really have no practical use in Thomas and Friends stories, unless a very, very specific and niche story. However, I'm very happy to have them, and they definitely made the $10 price worthwhile. So let's move on to the next items. Now, if you're a fan of Classic Thomas, you might not like this next lot very much. This is a bin of All Engines Go toys, plus a couple odds and ends. And the reason I picked this up is not because I'm a fanatic of All Engines Go, but one of my friends was at the flea market and just happened to be selling some stuff. I saw they had some Thomas toys, and they offered me them for 25 cents each, which I was very grateful for, and it was a price I couldn't pass up. For $3 or $4 for this whole bin, of course there are some toys in here that I have no interest in, but there are also some things in here that I can make room for in my collection. So let's dive right in. First up, let's take a look at some characters from All Engines Go that I really have no knowledge of, except a quick glance on the wiki. This is Verona and Federico. According to the All Engines Go wiki, they are high-speed trains from Spain, and I believe they appeared in one of the specials in All Engines Go that was about racing. They have a vaguely European high-speed train design, and they are antagonist bullies in the show. Their faces are pretty much the same. You can see Verona has some makeup on and has brown eyes, well, Federico has a little bit of a lower eyebrow raise there, and he has blue eyes. But pretty much, I think these are meant to be sort of twin characters, as they have inverse colors here. She is mainly yellow with some black. He is mainly black with some yellow. Overall, these are not great toys. They are mostly made of metal and only plastic on the bottom. But overall, they're just not very interesting. You can see their awkward shape here, and they don't really look like engine characters. They do have a coupling on the back. I'm not sure if they came with coaches or something like that, but from my understanding, these are very new toys. I think these are from either 2024 or 2025 from the Thomas and Friends push-along range. So it's interesting to see that these were already somehow at the flea market. I didn't ask my friend where they got these from, but maybe I should go back and try to see where they found these. I guess Walmart would be really the only place. Not sure why they sold these already, but for 25 cents each, that is an insane markdown for the $7 or $8 these are going for at retail right now. Next up, we have 2 more duplicate engines. This is Jiff and Riff. And I have no knowledge of these characters either. I think they're also sort of high-speed engines. You can see their colorful design on their sides. One is sort of this tealish blue color, which is Jiff, and Riff is a yellow color. Their faces are pretty much the same. They're just sort of mirrored. It looks like Riff here has freckles and maybe brownish hazel eyes, and Jiff has green eyes. On the side, they have a star and some confetti and some other random shapes. On the back, they have buffers and also some couplings. but overall, pretty standard engines. But as you can see, just not very interesting toys, and these really don't look like they come from the Thomas & Friends universe, which is a real shame after all these years. We've really sort of started to go into Chuggington territory with these character designs. Next up is a more familiar face. It is Kana, the high-speed engine, and I believe she is paired with Kenji. I'm not sure what country Kana is from, if she's from Japan or maybe just another country. I'm not really sure. You can correct me in the comments. On the bottom here, it says 2021. I should mention all of these say copyright 2021 Mattel. She also has a coupling, although I do like how her buffers are picked out in black. On the front here, she has sort of a skirting design and a very high-speed forward look with her front nose sort of dipping down to go into more of a cone shape at the front. Her face is pretty good. She looks very cute. It looks like she has yellowish hazel eyes as well. Her color scheme is mostly purple with some white, gray, and yellow highlights. And overall, she's a very nice toy. Although it is interesting to note that her wheels are yellow, which I was not aware of. Of course, I don't know much about Kana, and I've never watched All Engines Go. But it's cool to get her as a character, and I believe she was one of the first original characters introduced into All Engines Go. Next up, we have a character who is very familiar. It is Diesel, but you can see it is sort of a baby train Diesel. Both sets of his buffers are black, which I'm a big fan of. He has a front coupling here and also a back coupling. On the bottom, it says Diesel, 2021 Mattel. And I'm not sure if this is his actual design in the show, but you can see he has a lot of extra colors here. His whole chassis is yellow, and then he has some yellow on his side by his grills, and then his top is sort of a grayish color. The middle part of him is metal, although the roof and the bottom, well, this yellow part, this is metal, but this yellow and top part are plastic. He doesn't weigh that much, and it's weird that his wheels sort of say a C on the side here. I'm not really sure about these toys. Not sure when most of these released, but you can see from his very happy expression, he is not the devious Diesel that we knew of yesteryear. Next up, we have another familiar face. This is Ashima, and Ashima is from India. Of course, she was introduced in The Great Race, and then she appeared in Big World, Big Adventures, and she has also obviously appeared in All Engines Go. I think Ashima is a pretty nice character. It's kind of weird what they did with her and Thomas. They sort of build it as some sort of deeper relationship that they had, which was kind of weird, but I think that Ashima is a cool character for Thomas & Friends. Obviously, she has a very unique and colorful design, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. On the bottom, this one says 2022 Mattel, so that really doesn't make any sense at all. Her wheels right here, you can see they're just blue, and then she obviously has some crazy designs with her side rods here that is very weakly depicted with this very bland plastic mold, which I think is pretty ridiculous right here. On the front, her face and headlamp, and then some of the ornate designing that is shown on her actual model. That is pretty much absent here, except for a little bit of flower designs right here. And then on the back, you can see she has a very thin coal bunker with just a little bit of coal on the back. Overall, a pretty nice toy. Although I will mention, why are her buffers so small? You can see how thin her buffers are on the back and the front, as opposed to an engine like Diesel, which has much more beefy buffers. That really doesn't make sense. We'll take a look at a not All Engines Go character. This is a Take and Play Kevin, which was cool to get. And Kevin is an interesting character for Thomas & Friends. Obviously, he is not a very realistic character, as he's never really shown to have a driver, and it's assumed he's just self-propelled. However, as annoying as Kevin can get, he's a good character at heart, and you can't really fault the guy at the end of the day. He has a face with some freckles, and I think that's a pretty good Kevin face. And of course, his proportions right here are very accurate. I remember I have the 2011 version of Kevin from Learning Curve / Tomy, and that Kevin is abhorrent. His proportions are terrible. But this one, you can see he is very squashed. However, his proportions are pretty good, all things considered. His crane arm here can move up and down, and then his little red hook here can move up and down as well. Although I'm not really sure what this Kevin would actually lift in the Taken Long / Taken Play universe. Here is a push along Edward. This is from the CGI series when that was still airing. And I believe that this Edward was packaged without a tender. Originally, I was kind of miffed that his tender wasn't here. But if I'm remembering back to Gordon and James, I believe they actually sold these engines without tenders, which in hindsight is just absolutely ridiculous and stupid. But, you know, it's only gone downhill from here with this merchandise. He's labeled 2018 Mattel. You can see the name Edward. And I will say something I do like with these new take-along engines is that you can see how nicely that Ashima is printed with her name. This engine, I mean, you can barely see Edward, so they could have taken the time to at least in nice white font put Edward. So that is something that was an improvement with these take-along engines. However, back to this Edward, he actually has okay proportions. It does bother me that his splasher does not cover his middle wheel right here. Of course, his wheels are pretty stupid that he has an 060 design when that's absolutely not his wheel configuration in real life. But overall, an okay Edward face, none of the painted buffer detailing. But for what it's worth, it's good to get another version of my favorite character. Even though I'm Wooden Railway Edward, it's still nice to get a push-along Edward. We'll take a look at Salty, the Dockyard Diesel, next. And he comes with a piece of rolling stock. This is sort of like a troublesome truck, although it kind of reminds me of a mine car. And this is very, very light. This might be one of the lightest Thomas toys that I've ever taken a look at. I mean, this thing is light as a feather. But this Salty actually has really nice proportions, and I'm very fond of this Salty. I think he has a pretty cute face. I like the grime and dirt detailing on his front buffer beam. And on his side, I think his paintwork and detailing is really, really nice. And honestly, I'm a big fan of this toy. I think even as just a cutesy depiction of Salty, not related to All Engines Go, this works really, really well. So I'm actually very happy with this Salty. And paired along with this troublesome truck, I think he doesn't look half bad. So this is actually, in my opinion, the best looking All Engines Go model that we've taken a look at so far. Although he might get beat by this Hero. And Hero is a character who I have always admired. I think Hero is a really nice character, especially with his color scheme here of this very smart black design with yellow lining. I'm not sure if Hero appears that much in All Engines Go. Once again, I wouldn't know. I haven't really watched it. But I really do like this crimson red color for his wheels right here. His tender is very nice. I like how they actually gave him his actual tender design along with some molded coal right here. Minimalist detailing on the side, but it works for what it's worth. It's interesting that his nameplate here is pictured, but there's no Hero written on it. That's kind of stupid. His headlamp here is just a yellow plastic part, and it's interesting to see that his funnel curves towards the back, which is really weird thinking about. And also, it's weird that his funnel is so far back. But semantics aside, I think this Hero is still pretty good, and I'm glad to have him in my collection. Last but not least, we have the 75th anniversary Diamond Thomas, which I'm very happy to have. It is actually the second version of this item that I have. The first version I got a long time ago, I believe in 2021 or 2022, and I got this from Ollie's, and you can see it was $5. If we go on the back here, this is from a long time ago with Thomas and Friends Push Along. Let's see, what does the package say? 2019, but this must have come out in 2020 for the 75th anniversary. I kept this in the package because I thought it looked really great with this emblem right here, this sort of metal with 75 on it. But now I'm happy to have one out of the packaging because I think this is a really nice design. You can see Thomas sort of has this geometric diamond pattern on his side, has clear sparkly wheels, and also his smoke box is picked out in sort of this metallic blue design. On his top, it has a silhouette of Thomas with a 75 in it. Overall, just a very, very nice toy and something that does feel pretty premium and special for the 75th anniversary. This year, for the 80th anniversary, we got a lot of different things. Specifically, I'm thinking about, the pilot being released, which was a pretty big deal. But also, I know this isn't for the 80th anniversary of Thomas, but we did get that Ruby Thomas, which is part of the 80th celebration of Mattel. However, I think that toys for the 75th were maybe some of the best for that celebration, so I'm very happy with that Diamond Thomas. So that was everything that I got in this lot. Let's count it up here. This together was $1, $2, $3. So for $3, I think this is pretty much a steal. And I am very happy to have gotten all of this, even though there's some engines in here like Ferona and Federico or Riff and Jiff that I have no interest in. Still cool to get some new Thomas and Friends characters, even if they're not canon to the universe that we like to believe in. So with all that said, let's move on to the next item. There's nothing like some home media in a Thomas and Friends Flea Market Finds video. This is a stack of 6 Thomas and Friends VHS tapes that I got at my recent visit to the flea market. These were $1 each, and I couldn't pass them up. Originally, I had no way to play VHS, but I recently discovered I do in fact have a VCR. So one day, if I hook that up, I can see if these are watchable and try to enjoy them. Although at the current moment, it's still nice to appreciate their packaging from a bygone era where Thomas and Friends was a juggernaut of home media, both on VHS and DVD. And even though home media is pretty much defunct nowadays, it's still a great way as a time capsule to preserve this media on these defunct DVDs and VHSs and enjoy an era where Thomas and Friends was so popular. It says songs from the station, and it has the 60th anniversary emblem. So this, I believe, is from 2005 when they were celebrating that anniversary. And if you look at the copyright information, it is indeed from 2005. So songs from the station, the whole gimmick of this VHS is that it features songs instead of episodes. And the songs on it are Sounds, Emily, Surprises, A World Around You, Determination, Patience is a Virtue, Ode to Gordon, and the Engine Roll Call. And actually, my favorite song on here is Surprises. I think that is a very cool remix, sort of Accidents Will Happen. It's sort of a different take on Accidents Will Happen, and that's always was my favorite song of this later era of Thomas and Friends songs during the start of the hit era. You can also see it has 2 bonus stories, Thomas and the Firework Display and Thomas and the Tuba, which was actually the first episode of Season 8. So this is a pretty cool tape. If we take off the slip cover here, you can see the tape does have some weird stuff on it, but it is from 2005, an approximate running time of 40 minutes. And you can see that the tape here looks like it is black, but it does not have the sticker. It now has the print on it. So that's pretty cool. Next up, we have an older tape. This is Best of James. You can see it has a nice gold lining around the front cover here, and it says Collector's Edition to make it more, artificially rare. This tape is from, 2001, and it was originally released in 1995, reissued in 1998, and then this is the 2001 design of the tape. This, of course, along with Songs from the Station, was a DVD. And if we look on the back here, it says the story stops are A Proud Day for James, James in a Mess, Old Iron, No Joke for James, James Learns a Lesson, Percy James and the Fruitful Day, James Goes Buzz Buzz, and Time for Trouble. So a lot of James episodes on there, obviously, but that is a lot of good episodes. James had some great episodes in the classic series. It has a blurb here about what's on the back, so that is very nice, and I like the red color of that VHS. Here is Hooray for Thomas and Other Adventures. Here on the front, you can see James's tired face right there. That's pretty funny. And let's see. This is also 2005, and you can see the story stops. I won't read them all out, but it looks like those are all season 7 episodes, along with the song The Red Balloon. So that's very nice. Also one of the later VHS releases. Here is an oldie but a goodie, James Learns a Lesson and Other Thomas Adventures. I really like the cover design of this. And on the back here, you can see it is, once again, a 2001 package design. And it looks like 1994, and then I guess it was reissued in 2001. And some great episodes on there as well. And actually, I have the DVD of James Learns a Lesson, but it is this weird one that was issued by Lionsgate. And you can see it sort of has this back-to-school design, is the best words I can come to find for it. It has an apple on the front, along with some scissors and a ruler and a pencil, whatever. And you can see it has this thing right here that learning is fun, learn to be patient with others. So a very weird design. You can see the apple detail still sticks on the back. So it's really weird they repackaged this design with this right here, but I prefer this older design much, much more. Here is Thomas's Sodor Celebration. I also have this on DVD, but it's great to get it on VHS. This also came out in 2005. And on the back, you can see it has more Season 8 episodes and also 3 Season 8 songs, Surprises song, Being Blue, and Percy Pulls Out of the Station. Actually, some of those might be some DVD features. So this also had surprises on it. So that song was actually on a lot of these VHS/DVD releases. The approximate running time for this was 60 minutes, and it was actually copyright 2004. So it still had this 60th anniversary celebration design, even though this came out in 2004, which was the year that Season 8 was released. Last but not least, we have this, which is definitely not the least. And honestly, this is in the best condition out of all of these, which is pretty great in my opinion. This is Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And even though I do not like this movie in the slightest, I am very happy to finally have it on home media. On the back here, you can see there's cloud designs with some pictures of Peter Fonda and Mara Wilson. You have Alec Baldwin and also Thomas and Percy. This was released by Destination Films, and let's see, on the back, 2000 design. So I think this is actually the original VHS from 2000. You can see on the front of the tape, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, approximate running time 85 minutes. And overall, a very, very nice design for a VHS, and I'm glad it's in such good condition. And I forgot to mention, we didn't look at the tapes here, but most of these are, oh, I almost dropped it into the camera. Most of these are what you can expect. I mean, they don't have any of the sticker design because they're later releases. Let's just take a look at Best of James. Yep, all later releases. And you might notice that except for the Magic Railroad one, all of these have taped slip covers here, so it looks like some of them got into a little bit of damage. So that decreases the value of these a little bit, but nonetheless, I'm still very happy to have these 6 new tapes, and now I just have to find space on my shelf to display all of these. So let's move on. As a Thomas Wooden Railway channel, this is pretty sacrilegious. The main competitor of Thomas Wooden Railway was always BRIO, but I saw this at the antique shop that I got that bag of Thomas toys, and I thought it was something that I just had to add to my collection. For about $3, I got this BRIO box with 4 pieces of 4-inch straight track, and this is from the 90s. You can see this kid on the back of the box with his 90s outfit. And he looks very happy to have this track, and I would be too. It's so awesome that they sold this in a box like this, and this just is so retro and such a nice package. You can see on the bottom, it is licensed 1997. Of course, BRIO is a Swedish company, and on the bottom just has some information. And on the front, we already saw that. I think the BRIO logo is also a really nice logo. I don't think that's the one they have anymore, but this retro 90s logo is really awesome. On the top right here, you can see it has first in Swedish and then many other languages, short straight track. Opening this up, it has been opened before, but it still comes with the original 90s pamphlet, which I think is so cool. And it doesn't look like this track has been used before. You can see how new it looks. And the track almost feels raw just because it is so new, and I don't think, honestly, even though it's been open, this has never been played with before. You can see how nice the track looks right there. Pretty much similar to Thomas Wooden Railway track, of course, just without the clickety-clack track design. So, of course, the track is pretty boring, but the pamphlet should be very, very interesting. So, looking at the pamphlet here, I'm very excited to open this up. And I believe this pamphlet hasn't really been opened up either. It feels very crisp to the touch. Looking at this pamphlet, you can see all of the stuff that BRIO used to offer. Of course, their classic BRIO figures right there, which Thomas and Friends Wood may or may not have copied. And you can see all of the stuff here that you could have gotten. Of course, that's the 4-inch straight track, but you could have also gotten 6-inch straight track or 8-inch straight track. Packs of curves and slopes. You could have gotten bigger track packs, risers, play sets, turntables, switches, everything you ever could have wanted. Of course, all the trains that they offered, and trucks and cars and stuff. And also the figurines and play sets. This mountain tunnel, obviously, is very iconic. That, I believe, was in an episode of Thomas Wooden Railway series. I think maybe in Season 2. I believe that was Save Sir Topham Hatt, the episode that was in. But overall, just a very, very nice pamphlet. On the back, you can see, some of the other toys that BRIO used to offer. The BRIO Builder System, BRIO from Birth, BRIO from 1 year. You can see all the different toys. And this is an awesome pamphlet to have, and I'm so happy to have this. Let's see if I can fold it back up. And this will absolutely be getting displayed on a shelf somewhere. And if I'm being honest, I might not even use this track just because it is so nice and in good condition. And one thing I forgot to mention was you can see the BRIO logo on the top of the track right there. That's just something subtle I didn't notice. But overall, for $3, I think this is an awesome thing to have. And especially just with the box and everything else, I'm so happy to have this BRIO track pack. Also on that day, I found another thing at the antique shop, which, unlike all the other items, I am not totally happy with, as I think I might have paid a little more than I would have liked for this. But taking into account what I might have paid on a site like eBay, I don't think it's a terrible deal. Here you can see it is a Thomas Wooden Railway item. It is a TWR Fuel Tanker, and although I used to not have any tanker cars, I now have 5 milk tankers and now a TWR Fuel Tanker, so my collection of tanker cars actually increased exponentially in my Thomas Wooden Railway collection. You can see on the tag here that it is a very long title. It says TWR Fuel Tanker car from Thomas and Friends Wooden Railway collection, and the person at the cashier was very perturbed by that very long title, so that was pretty funny. On the bottom, it has no label, so this is presumably from before 2003. Let's see, what year does it say? It says 2000 on the wheel right there. And I think that for what I paid, which was $8, which I was not very happy with, that, it's good to have another Thomas Wooden Railway item. There's not too much to say about this. It says TWR Fuel on the side with a design copied on the left and the right of the words. On the top, of course, it has this nub on the top and also 2 of these magnet pieces. And overall, the edgeware is not too bad, although I'm not totally happy that I spent $8 on this. I think that money could have been better spent maybe towards a bigger lot, but since I saw it in the store and it was the first Thomas Wooden Railway that I hadn't had that I had found at a store like this, I thought for $8, not too bad. So let's move on to the next item, which is the last thing we'll be taking a look at today. And this is something I am much happier with. This was found at a local antique shop, and it is a bag of ERTL rolling stock. So let me move the camera in a little bit to take a better look at it. And you can see it is labeled Thomas the Tank Engine ERTL, and it was all for $5. And I am very happy with what I got in this bag of goodies. This was a different antique shop than the other items I took a look at. And I've never found anything Thomas related from this antique shop. So when I found this ERTL merchandise, I was very, very happy. Taking a look at all of the stuff, you can see it comes with 2 tanker cars, 2 troublesome trucks, and 2 ERTL express coaches. These items are very, very light, obviously, as they're mostly made out of plastic. Let's take a look at the coaches first. You can see this is the design of the green express coaches, and this is something that was never in Thomas Wooden Railway, of course. They only had the red express coaches. Looking at the bottom here, it is labeled ERTL, made in China, interestingly, and it is 1997, both of these coaches. There's passenger designs in both of these, and actually, interestingly, I just noticed that both of these are brake coaches, which is very, very peculiar. They are both labeled 2, so I guess it never came with the 1. So that must mean that that seller had more coaches. I'm not really sure, but they're both brake coaches, as you can see the lack of windows on the end right here. The coupling system for ERTL isn't the best, and of course, neither was the track. It's kind of pitiful to see how small the wheels are right here. But in a $5 lot, I'm very happy with those coaches. Next up, this might look familiar. Here you can see some of these tanker cars. Of course, we took a look at tanker cars such as this in a previous Flea Market Finds video. Here are those other two tanker cars. But now it's good to have 2 of each, and these are pretty standard. They're the same as the other ones, although let's see what the dates say and see if they're any different. So it looks like one was labeled 1993 and the other 1993. Okay, so there's no difference between these, although, you know, it was worth checking. But overall, very happy with those as well. And, of course, there is these troublesome trucks, which I was the most happy about. You can see that they are 2 different designs. One has a face where he's laughing with his eyes closed, and the other just sort of has a generic laughing face, very reminiscent of the classic series. And this one has a little bit of dirt on him. I'll try to clean that off. These are labeled 1990, and I'm very happy with these. They are pretty short, but I do like their molded coal design and also how their buffers have that black on them. So overall, very happy with those engines. And if I bring in an ERTL duck, which I unboxed a while ago, let's couple duck up to these troublesome trucks. And you can see that it makes a nice little train. Wow, this is very finicky, these couplings. I do not like that very much. But if I couple them up, you can see it almost looks like Duck has a mega train here. And yeah, the couplings really don't work. I'm not the biggest fan of those, and that's why I'm not really the biggest fan of ERTL in general. But I'm very happy to have these nonetheless and add them to my growing ERTL collection. So let's wrap up and take an encompassing view of everything that I showed off today. Wow, it actually took me quite a while to set this all up in an intricate pattern so it could fit on camera. And although today's episode felt a little bit shorter, there was a lot of stuff, and a lot of good stuff too, that we took a look at. You can see that there is the All Engines Go merchandise, the ERTL, the home media, that BRIO, Take Along, Take and Play, and Thomas Wooden Railway. And none of this really disappointed me, even though, for example, that TWR Fuel Tanker I paid $8 for. In the grand scheme of things, the enjoyment of finding that at the antique shop was worth the price. And in 2025, it seems like on eBay, prices get higher and higher and there's less good deals. Know that wherever you are in the world, if you look hard enough and with enough patience, you'll find great stuff like this too. And I'm very happy with all of my trips to these places and how lucky I am to find all of this stuff for as cheap as I'm able to buy it. With all of that said, I think it's time to wrap this episode of Flea Market Finds, and we'll look towards the next episodes. I already have some items in reserve that we'll take a look at in future installments of this series, even some stuff that maybe I found at different locations I've never been to before. So stay tuned for all of that. Also stay tuned for some other cool videos that are in the works that are not unboxing related. You'll definitely enjoy those, wink wink. And I will see you in the next one. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and as always, comment and like if you enjoyed the video. I'm Wooden Railway Edward, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.